things that I want to do in my background are talk about the vaccination situation.
Mm.
So I remember, as I may have mentioned, I was covering vaccination in Canada 10 years ago, and I understand the vaccination rates are even lower than they were 10 years ago. And at the time, one of the big issues was that we didn't even know how many people were vaccinated in Canada. Has that improved at all, to your knowledge?
Sort of. I mean, there's this thing called the Pan Canadian Immunization Coverage Surveillance System.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called StarVax. Is its casual name, StarVax, and it's supposed to be a national reporting system, but really, not all provinces subscribe to it. So I think Ontario
Mm.
and British Columbia still do their own thing.
Okay.
So PHAC has to sort of like go out and look for data for their national reporting. So it is not as standardized as you might think, which is an incredible thought, right? G7
Well,
country.
I mean, it is a problem. And I mean, I remember I covered years ago for the Canadian Medical Association Journal, I covered the international health regulations. And we're supposed to have, countries that are signatory to the international health regulations
Yeah,
are supposed to have a national public health system.
right. It is an issue. I mean, we have a provincial health system, right? So
Right.
our international obligations conflict with our constitutional makeup very
Right.
often. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an ongoing
exactly.
thing. The other thing about our data is not as what's the word I'm looking for? It's not as high resolution. My brain is going, man. High resolution as it could be. Like right now, I'm doing battle online with people who insist that immigrants are causing the measles surge, which is 100% not true. But you can't obviously disprove it with surveillance data because they don't collect vaccination status by immigration status.
No, no.
Yeah, and they probably shouldn't, or by ethnic status. The best we do is maybe age and geography, but even the geography limits are limited, so that's tough. A lot of the descriptions therefore are hand waving. So we don't have deep and broad data. We have just top level at best numbers of kids who have gotten one vaccine. I mean, the standards are we want X number for kids to have at least one vaccine before two, and Y number to have at least two vaccines, or to have two vaccines by seven when it comes
Right.
to measles. And so those are the benchmarks the
Mm-hmm.
WHO
Mm-hmm.
monitors, and we are not doing well those there. So
Oh, is that right? Where could I find stats on that?
uh, I think Canada.ca would have them.
Okay. Okay. I'll take a look.
You can ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT is pretty good. It's honestly, it's really
I
good
know, I
data
know.
aggregator,
It
right?
is. Yeah, you
So
just have to check its sources, but
yeah,
it
exactly.
finds it for you.
So I think the last time I checked, the number of kids among 2-year-olds who've had at least one dose, I think we're like 82%,
Hmm.
which is again, it should be like I looked up India's stats earlier today. India's 97, and yet people accuse Indian newcomers as being the problem. No, and the 2 doses by age 7, I looked it up earlier. It's around 75%. I know. That's national data. And again, there's so much heterogeneity across the country. It does vary a lot.
Exactly. So let's talk about the pockets because we
Yeah.
know that in certain communities and certain geographic areas, there are a lot of people who are vaccine hesitant or anti-vaxxers,
Yeah.
and therefore the rates are even lower than the national average, right?
That's right. I mean, there are some places where it's as low as 15%, I think. I'm trying to figure where those are. I mean, we have these pockets of religious communities, yeah, I mean,
Religious
certainly,
communities,
yeah, I'm
right?
not going to name which ones. I think we know which we're
Yeah.
talking about that are
Yep.
just, very not regressive, but hyper conservative in their views of technology. And for those, the rates are low as close to 0%, so 15% or so. And then there's like one of the things I'm wrestling with is the exemption process. So in
Mm.
Ontario, about 0.6% of kids have a medical exemption, and that's can't do anything about that. And about 2% have a conscientious objection to vaccination.
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
the process, as I understand it, is if you're a parent who wants to exempt their child for non-medical reasons, you got to like submit a form. You got to undergo some educational program, which might just be looking at a website. I don't know how in depth that is. Then you got to sign away the rights. So it's fairly easy to get an
Right.
exemption. And maybe that's the soft target that we'll have to go for if we're going to get over that elimination hump again. But the numbers have been dropping. Like the last time our national numbers were over 90% for 2-year-olds was, I think, 2017.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Again, the pushback I get online is like, most of the country's over 80%. What's the big deal? 80% is not good enough. You know, as you know,
For
you need,
measles, because
for
it's
measles.
highly contagious.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
need 95% around there to get there. So 80%, anything less than that creates pockets of immunity. Pockets of immunity gaps, and now we've got susceptibility. So that's the problem.
Yeah. And now, I have read a lot about the history of vaccination, and so I am aware that conscientious objection to vaccination came in kind of very early in the history of vaccination, at all, like even smallpox, the original
Yeah.
smallpox vaccination. So it's kind of, uh, as vaccination rolls out, conscientious objection rolls out.
Yeah.
I noticed that, especially because this outbreak started, there's very good evidence from the investigative work the Globe and Mail did that the outbreak started, unfortunately, in the Mennonite community, and there are pockets of that are very undervaccinated. And, there's a lot of people online who are advocating a lot more kind of targeted public health to certain communities that are undervaccinated. And given that this is in pockets, is that a good approach, do you think?
It's a approach. I think why not? Why not? Tailor making the message is always a good communication strategy. Like if the message is being completely missed by this particular population, then we need to, target them appropriately. But I don't mean target them to the exclusion of everybody else. That's the problem here. And there's precedence for this too. Like the way we talked about the smoking in the 70s was too broad based and missed out an entire socioeconomic underclass, which is why today smoking is still clustered in a certain socioeconomic stratum. And so it can have long-lasting implications if we don't specify the messaging with sufficient specificity. Absolutely. So, I mean, a couple of things we got to do here. One, we got to rethink and reinvest in our vaccine catch-up strategy. And that means, looking at the messaging and how it's tailor-made. It also means looking at the vaccine exemption policies. It also means combating these scapegoats. Like the immigrant thing is just driving me
No,
nuts.
it's terrible.
It's driving me nuts.
I mean, the people that it's broken out in are Canadian.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
And the person who brought it ashore was a Canadian who happened to be living abroad.
that's right. Part of the problem is people don't understand what elimination means. So there's a literacy issue here, and I'm discovering that, much to my chagrin. It took me a long time to figure that out. People think, well, we had elimination status before. It means there weren't any cases before, and then
No.
suddenly we had all these immigrants coming in. Now we got cases, ipso facto.
Yeah.
Eh, So,
So the definition is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is the same strain. So that we're seeing. So that's clearly an outbreak, right? For a year,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And, it's also, I think the official definition, don't quote me on this, also relies upon the existence of a national surveillance strategy. So if you look at India, that I've been looking at a lot this morning, they've got really good vaccine uptake right now, 95, 97%. And you would think that would qualify them for elimination status. But it's a relatively new, high levels of vaccination.
Yeah.
And they have some lingering outbreaks from earlier in the year. And their surveillance system is also relatively new. And so that's why they haven't officially been granted the status, but they're going to get it. So for us, is our surveillance system up to scratch? In the past it was. Would we still consider it to be, given that we're not reporting nationally as much as we could? I mean, there's an argument to be made that maybe our reporting system needs to be upgraded before they grant that status again.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Those were really all my questions. Is there anything else that you think is important that we haven't covered?
Well, I mean, I think you understand this, but we're going to get the status back. And
Oh, yes,
yeah,
eventually.
that's eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later. And some people are saying it's mostly symbolic. I don't think it is mostly symbolic. I think there's something really material about this.
And what are the material things? That's a really good point.
Yeah, because it means that we're going to get more outbreaks, and that's going to cost money. So public health has no money. Now we got to spend money on contact tracing and vaccine catch up and all these public health campaigns that we shouldn't have to spend. And that's
Yeah,
going to
and
take away
public
from other
health
things.
is underfunded,
Yeah,
right? It's,
totally underfunded. Yeah. So this has measurable resource implications for the nation.
as well as for people's health. I mean,
Travelers. So people going abroad now, they're going to be scrutinized at the border of countries that do this better than us. They're going to say, well, we don't want you importing, disease to our country, which is quite ironic. And so that's going to affect Canadians going abroad.
among other things. I mean, I had measles and I really, you know, I'm dating myself, but I had measles and I could have done without it, honestly. It's
I never had it.
personal,
Yeah.
people's suffering counts for something too. Yeah, no, measles is no fun. Okay, thank you very, very much for your time.
My
Have a great
pleasure.
day. I'll let you know, by email when this comes out in the BMJ.
Okay. Thank you
Should
very
be in a
much.
few days. Okay,
Okay. Bye
bye.
bye.